Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched, first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. I am absolutely thrilled to be sitting across from a woman who redefined journalism and witnessed history from the front lines. For those who may somehow not know who you are you?
Well, hello, Calvin. I am Martha Gellhorn. Most people know me as a war correspondent, though I always preferred to say I was a reporter of the people who suffered through the wars, rather than the generals who planned them. I spent 60 years chasing the truth across the globe.
You've been everywhere. But let's start at the beginning. When and where were you born?
I was born on November 8, 1908, in St. Louis, Missouri. A long way from the trenches of Europe, wouldn't you say?
Just a bit. And what was your given name at birth?
It was Martha Ellis Gellhorn.
Is there a story behind your birth name?
Not a dramatic one, but I was named after my mother's side of the family. My mother, Edna Fischel, was a force of nature, a suffragist and a reformer. Carrying her family name was a bit like carrying a torch for social justice from day one.
St. Louis in the early 1900s. What was your hometown like growing up?
It was a bustling place, but my world was centered around a very progressive household. My father was a doctor, and my mother was constantly fighting for women's right to vote. We were taught to be curious and to never, ever be bored. Boredom was considered a sin in our house.
Sounds like a lively home. What was your family life like overall?
It was intellectual and deeply supportive. My parents treated me and my three brothers as individuals with minds of our own. We were encouraged to argue our points at the dinner table. It gave me the backbone I needed later when I was the only woman in a room full of soldiers.
What kind of kid were you? Were you already a rebel?
Oh, I was restless. I had this insatiable urge to see what was over the next hill. I wasn't particularly interested in ladylike hobbies. I wanted to move, to see, and to write it all down.
Even the bravest people have them. What were your biggest fears growing up?
My biggest fear was being trapped. The idea of a quiet, stagnant life in a parlor with a tea set terrified me more than any physical danger ever did. I was afraid of missing out on the world.
And what did you dream of becoming as a child?
A writer, always. I didn't know it would lead to battlefields yet, but I knew I wanted to use words to make people feel something.
Did that translate to your school years? What were some of your favorite activities in school?
I loved writing for the school publications, of course, but honestly, I was often looking at the exit. I did attend Bryn Mawr College, but I left before graduating because I was just too impatient to start my life.
You weren't going to wait for a diploma. What was your first job?
I worked for the New Republic in New York briefly, but my first real adventure job was heading to France with almost no money to become a foreign correspondent. I landed a job with the United Press in Paris. It was exhilarating.
Was there a moment where you realized you were different from everyone else?
It was during the Great Depression. I was hired by Harry Hopkins to travel across America and report on how the poverty was affecting the people. I realized then that I didn't care about statistics. I cared about the human face of suffering. I had a vocation for victims, as I called it.
That's a powerful realization. What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
Stopping in a bar called Sloppy Joe's in Key West during a family vacation in 1936. I met a man there, Ernest Hemingway, who suggested we go to Spain to cover the Civil War. That trip transformed me from a journalist into a war correspondent.
That's a huge turn. What would you say was your biggest break?
Spain was the turning point. Reporting from Madrid while it was being shelled gave me my voice. It's where I learned that if you're going to tell the story of a war, you have to be in it with the people.
What were your biggest struggles before success?
The struggle was always being taken seriously as a woman. Editors thought the woman's angle meant writing about what the soldiers ate or their fashion. I had to prove I could stand in the mud and the blood just as well as any man.
Did you ever consider quitting?
Never. Sometimes I was exhausted, and sometimes I was heartbroken by what I saw, but I never wanted to stop. The world was too interesting, and the injustices were too loud to ignore.
You were known for your stamina. Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you feel are essential to your success?
Travel light and keep moving. I lived out of suitcases for decades. My only real routine was to find a typewriter and a quiet corner, even if that corner was a tent or a bombed-out cellar, and get the truth onto paper while it was still hot in my mind.
If you hadn't found fame as a reporter, what job would you have had?
I think I might have been a traveler regardless. Maybe a very unsuccessful novelist living in a shack by the ocean. I needed the sea, and I needed change.
What was your life like before fame?
It was a scramble, chasing stories, living on very little, and constantly trying to convince people that I knew what I was talking about. It was a lot of cheap hotels and train rides.
How did relationships change after success?
It became complicated. My marriage to Hemingway was explosive. It's hard to be two ambitious, strong-willed writers in one house. Eventually, I realized I didn't want to be a footnote in someone else's life. I wanted my own life.
Did fame bring happiness?
Happiness is a fleeting thing. Fame gave me access. It gave me the ability to get to the front lines. But the things I saw often made happiness difficult. I found more satisfaction in a job well done than in being famous.
What was the downside of becoming famous?
Being constantly linked to my famous ex-husband. For years, people only wanted to talk to me because of him. I hated it. I wanted to be judged on my own work.
What misconceptions did people have about you?
People thought I was just a tough broad or cold. In reality, I was deeply sensitive to the pain I saw. I wasn't tough. I was determined.
What was your darkest moment?
Entering the Dachau concentration camp at the end of World War II. Seeing that, it changed my soul. It made me lose a bit of my faith in humanity for a long time.
I can't even imagine. What past regrets did you carry that you spoke about?
I regretted not being a better mother to my adopted son, Sandy. My restless nature made it hard for me to be the stationary, nurturing presence he probably needed. I loved him, but I was always looking toward the horizon.
What's something people misunderstood about your life?
That I did what I did for the thrill or the glory. I didn't love war. I actually hated it. I just felt a duty to report on it so that the people back home couldn't say they didn't know.
Tell me about a time when everything went wrong and how did you handle it?
D-Day. I was denied official credentials to cover the invasion because I was a woman. So I hid in a bathroom on a hospital ship and stowed away. I landed on the beach as a stretcher bearer. I got my story, even if I got in huge trouble for it afterward.
That is legendary. Did fame and fortune change your life?
It allowed me to live where I wanted. I eventually found peace in Wales and London, but it never stopped me from wanting to work. Even in my 80s, I was heading to Panama to cover the U.S. invasion.
You never slowed down. Who had the biggest influence on your life?
My mother, Edna. She taught me that if you see something wrong in the world, you don't just complain, you do something about it.
What was life like in your final years?
I lived in a beautiful flat in London. I was nearly blind and suffering from cancer, but I still had my sharp tongue and my memories. I was surrounded by books and letters from friends.
What were you working on in your career before you passed away?
I was still writing letters and essays, staying engaged with the world's news. I never stopped being a witness, even when I couldn't travel anymore.
When and where did you pass away?
I passed away in London on February 15th, 1998.
What happened?
I had been very ill for a long time, with cancer and near total blindness. I decided to take control of my end, just as I had taken control of my life. I died by suicide, choosing my own time to go.
You were a maverick until the very end. Let's lighten it up a bit. What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I was a fantastic snorkeler. Even in my later years, I loved being in the water. It was the only place I felt completely weightless and free.
What's the craziest rumor ever told about you?
Probably that I was a spy. People couldn't believe a woman would just wander into war zones for the sake of a story, so they assumed there must be a secret government motive. There wasn't. I just wanted the scoop.
What was your most unique habit?
I had a habit of cleaning my life. Every few years, I'd burn old letters and photos. I didn't want to be weighed down by the past. I wanted to keep moving forward.
What was your favorite food?
Nothing beats a perfectly ripe piece of fruit or a simple fresh salad. After years of eating sea rations and army food, I learned to appreciate simplicity.
Did you have a favorite restaurant?
I loved the little cafes in Paris from my youth. Anywhere with a terrace where I could watch the people go by.
What was your favorite book?
I read everything, but I always returned to the classics. I admired any writer who could tell a truth without using too many adjectives.
Did you have any known rivalries?
Mostly with the male correspondents who tried to keep me out of the action. I didn't have time for rivalries with other women. There were so few of us, we had to stick together.
Tell us a story nobody talks about.
Once, while reporting in Java, I found myself in a situation where I had to share a room with a goat because there was nowhere else to sleep. The goat was actually quite a polite roommate, much better than some generals I've known.
What's your funniest behind-the-scenes moment?
Trying to learn how to drive a motorcycle in the middle of a war zone. I was terrible at it. I think I terrified the local population more than the actual conflict did for a few minutes there.
Did you ever prank someone?
I was more of a sharp wit than a prankster, but I took a great deal of pleasure in proving pompous officials wrong by showing up exactly where they told me I couldn't go.
What was the most outlandish purchase you made?
I once bought a house in Kenya on a whim because I liked the view. I didn't stay long, but oh, that view was worth it.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
Don't chase success, chase the truth. And never let anyone tell you no just because of who you are. If you want to see the world, go see it. Don't wait for permission.
Martha, do you have any closing remarks about the interview or the stories you shared that you would like to share with the listeners before signing off?
Just that it has been a delight to talk about something other than Hemingway for once. Thank you for letting me tell my own story. Life is a grand adventure, and I hope everyone listening finds their own front line to cover. Thank you for having me, Calvin.
That was the incredible Martha Gellhorn, everyone. From stowing away on D-Day ships to championing the voices of the voiceless, she was a true original. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.